Hello, all you scaredy cats and kittens, and welcome to the Two Scaredy Cats podcast, where we talk about all things strange, unusual, and paranormal. We're your hostess with the mostest. I'm Stacy.
And I'm Kara.
So, Kara, what have you been up to since we talked last? It's been a couple weeks. So what's been going on in your world?
Nothing. Just
Nothing.
Cold.
Cold, yeah.
miserable.
Yeah, it's been like the Arctic.
Now it's warm, but
Yeah.
and then we lost power on like the coldest night.
Yep. That's never fun when you lose power.
Yeah, just trying to prepare
Yeah.
for the con season I'm about to have.
Yeah. Yeah. Things have been fun around here. Let's see. Kara's
Yeah.
middle brother decided that both of his retinas, one needed to have a tear in it, and the other one needed to be detached. So we had the fun of dealing with that all last week. And then that was on Monday and Tuesday that he had to have his retina reattached. And then on Friday, our dog, who's like 12 years old, she's a border collie, decided that she needed to do something. So she came in from outside the one night, and we don't know what happened, but all of a sudden she was like hugging the wall, and she was having a hard time like getting up and down, and it was just a lot of stuff going on, and her head would tilt to the one side. It was really weird. So we thought, well, maybe it's, she fell through the ice or whatever and twisted her back leg, but it just kept getting progressively worse to the point where my husband had to carry the poor dog up the steps each night to go to bed, because she likes to sleep up with everybody at nighttime, and she was not happy about being carried up the steps by him. But anyway, we took her to the vet on Monday, and we found out that she basically has what's called old dog syndrome. And so they gave us some medicine, and they gave her a steroid shot, and she's doing a little bit better. They said it'll take a couple weeks for her to return to her normal self. So she's now on the mend. So it's been pretty stressful around here the past couple weeks. And nothing really is going on now. In a couple weeks, I'm going to Cancun, so hopefully I'll have some cool stories to tell about that.
Yeah, and I'm going on a cruise.
Yeah, she's going on
that time.
Yep, she's going on a cruise when we get back. Andrew also have a huge
Bahamas.
con, too, don't you?
Yeah, they're
Before that, yeah.
close to each other.
Yeah, it's all like boom, boom, boom.
That's why February is a little chaotic.
Yeah, February is going to be crazy around here. But
January's
anyway.
just been kind of chill.
Yeah.
To prepare.
So that's what's been going on around here. Nothing else I can think of. Although I do have some news in the kind of like of the strange, unusual, and paranormal the other day that kind of came out that I thought was interesting. And it kind of ties in with what I'm going to be, the story that I'm going to be talking about today. So I thought this was interesting. So I don't know if anybody has seen, and Kara, I don't know if you've seen this show. I think we talked about it a little bit. But Ryan Murphy, who does all the American Horror Story stuff and all that, the writer of all that, has been doing a murder anthology. And it started with Jeffrey Dahmer, which we both watched, and I thought was amazing. It was really well done. It really made me learn to see how Dahmer started and, how it got to where it got. And then just recently here, I guess in September of 2024, he released the second one in that series, which was about the Menendez brothers. And I finally got around to watching that one. I had to stop. I didn't like it. It wasn't very good. It wasn't as good as Dahmer was. But anyway, they just announced that he started production, or started to get actors in that for the third one in his murder anthology, and it's going to be on Ed Gein. Now, I don't know if anybody's familiar with him. He's a really crazy dude. So the story about him was when in 1957 Ed Gein was arrested for the murder of a woman named Bernie Warden. And when police searched his house, they found all sorts of horrific stuff that he had been making from human remains. And he had stuff in his home like chairs covered in human skin. He had he had bowls that he had made from human skulls. He like cut open a human skull and turned it into a bowl to eat out of. And then he also had a belt that was made out of nipples that I guess he wore sometimes. And in case you haven't figured it out yet, Gain is the basis for many horror movies, including Psycho. The one where he dresses up like his mom and stuff, and he kills, he lures all of these young women into his hotel and people, and he kills them, and then, watches them and then kills them. And also the Texas Chainsaw Massacre is also based off of Ed Gein, and what he did. But in real life, Gain only murdered 2 people, and most of the remains that were used for his arts and crafts that he made actually came from a local graveyard. So it wasn't like he was like the way they were like this, and this blew up in pulp culture or during that time. Like he was made out to be, this crazy man that had, a cauldron full of like body parts and stuff, and, all these missing people. So basically any missing person within the 20 years from the time that he got arrested was basically, they're all like, oh, it must have been a victim of Ed Gein or whatever, which necessarily wasn't true. But, I mean, there could still be, people out there.
Yeah.
But anyway, so that's what Ryan Murphy is going to be, his next series in this murder anthology is going to be about, which that one sounds like it would be really good. Hopefully it's as good as Dahmer was, and not like the Menendez brothers. I feel like the Menendez brothers was really hard for his type of work, because he's more into like the kind of gross kind of horror stuff, you know what I mean? So Dahmer fit right into that, because he was eating people and serving neighbors barbecue made from human remains. To whereas the Menendez brothers, they just killed their parents. I mean, sure, it was horrific what they did. I'm not trying to say it was by any stretch of the imagination, but it wasn't as, I guess, gross and as graphic as what Dahmer did and what Ed Gein had done with people and body parts and stuff. So I don't know, it'll be real interesting to see how that turns out. Now they're saying that because it usually takes Ryan Murphy a couple years to make these, that they don't think this one will be out until 2026 or 27. So we'll have to keep our eyes open for when that comes out. But that leads us into who I'm going to be talking about today. And that is a woman by the name of Katherine Knight, who was actually the first woman in Australia to be jailed without parole. And this happened in 2000, so it's pretty crazy to think that in all the years that Australia has been around, that was the first time that a woman had to be, got jailed and held without parole. And she ended up stabbing her partner, Joe Price, 37 times, apparently, before she did all the other stuff that we're going to talk about that she did to him. So Katherine Knight was this hard worker who loved socializing with the RSL, which is basically Australia's version of the veteran organization, like the VFA that we have here. So, so she would go there, and meet up with men and stuff, I guess, and have a good time. So, and I guess this is where she met her partner that she decided she was done with, by the name of John Price. So on February 29th of 2000, it was in the evening that Katherine Knight decided she was going to kill her boyfriend or partner at the time. So she ended up skinning and beheading him, and his name was John Price, at his home in New South Wales. The postmortem examination revealed that Mr. Price had been stabbed 37 times in both his front and back. Knight, who was a highly skilled meat worker, became the first Australian woman to be sentenced to life in prison without parole. It was discovered that after Price had been dead, his body was dragged from the hallway where she had originally killed him to a lounge room in the house, and that is where she did the rest of what she did to him. And it was pretty horrific what she ended up doing. And then, you know, she was a pretty crazy lady. So, and then in the end, she gave the kids a gift, I guess you could say, and not in a good way. So apparently Price had two kids, a boy and a girl, that I think also lived with them at the time. Apparently, Knight, very skilled and had a very steady hand when she decided that she was going to cut his skin off. And she cut off his head, his face, his nose, his arms, his neck, his torso, his genitals, his genital organs, and his legs were also removed, so as to make a basically John Price pelt. So basically, after she killed him, after she stabbed him, she went ahead and dragged him from the hallway to this lounge area. She hung him up on a hook, like a meat hook that they use for like cows and pigs. Yeah. And she decided she was going to start peeling off his skin. But she was so skilled at her job, because she was like this meat person, that she managed to peel his skin off, like all of it off,
Ew.
in one like attached piece.
Ew.
Yes, I know. Can you imagine? Like, and wait, here it gets better. The parts that she didn't use for what I'm going to talk about in a few minutes, she just left hanging there for the cops and stuff to find when law enforcement came to arrest her or whatever. She was such an expert at what she did. She had removed his skin that after the postmortem examination had happened, his skin, the skin of Price, was able to be re-sewn onto his body in a way which indicated the clear way of how she had sliced it off. And he basically looked like himself, like once the skin back on his body, I guess. But she was so skilled at what she did. She had, you know, done it in this expert way that, like, kind of like when they cut the skin off a deer, you know, kind of thing.
Oh.
Yeah, but she had managed to, like, keep all of that intact when she took it off. I mean, that is just nuts. So the justice, by the name of O'Keefe, said that Knight then prepared her murdered partner's body for dinner. So she's like the Hannibal Lecter of... Yeah, she's like...
Wild.
Yeah, she's like the female version of Hannibal Lecter of Australia, basically. So she was so pissed off at this guy. I don't know what he did to piss her off, but damn, I don't think I'd ever want to piss her off. That he ended up, you know, getting sliced up. So here's what she did with his body once she had him hanging, you know, from the meat hooks and that. The removed parts of Mr. Price were then taken by Knight to the kitchen at some stage after she had peeled she started like making like this stew. Okay. So she's in the kitchen. She's got all of his body parts in there with her, and she starts like cutting vegetables and stuff. Like she's making a real legit stew here. And, you know, she slices them and dices them and all that. And then she starts to cook Mr. Pierce's head in a large pot with the stew of vegetables to produce this very sickening, gross stew with his, like, a head and his eyeballs all in there. Ugh. She kept that on the stovetop. So while that's, you know, cooking away, she also cut off part of his buttocks, okay? Yeah, and she had removed that. So she starts to cut that into like steak fillets. And she decides she's going to like bake them in the oven. So she bakes them in the oven with some other vegetables that she had peeled. And then she arranged all this on a plate, the steaks and the vegetables and all that, as a meal for Price's son and daughter to eat of his body parts. I mean, that's pretty messed up. So I don't know how, like, the story didn't say how she got found out or how they realized what she had done. I'm sure the kids must have come home or somebody realized that he was not where he needed to be. But yeah, like his body was just hanging in there. Like his skin was like actually Like his body parts had been, cut up and used, and his skin was just hanging on this hook in this lounge room, just hanging there in the doorway for people to see when they came in. So, yeah, she was pretty crazy. They said that they did not want her to get released on parole or anything. Like, she's been denied parole. She's not allowed. It's even written in her records, because they feel that she is so crazy that she will kill somebody else, especially males. I guess she has like a thing against males, which is really weird. Like, why would you start dating somebody who's a male if you like hate them that much? But I guess that was her plan the whole time, was to chop them up and eat them. I don't know. But yeah, so she's basically considered the female version of Hannibal Lecter in Australia.
That's wild.
Yeah, and her name is Catherine Knight. So if you ever want to look her up, go ahead. She's interesting. Yeah.
She definitely sounds interesting.
Doesn't she?
It's kind of wild about the cooking and stuff.
Right? I mean, who does that? Who cuts people's body parts up?
Yeah, the butt off too, specifically.
Yeah, I know. Like, like a rump roast or something. Here, let's slice you up
juicy?
and make steaks. Yeah, I don't know. I guess he had a nice ass. I have no idea why she was cutting it up. People are nuts. She's one of them. But yeah, so yeah,
well.
So that was my story for today.
It's a story.
Oh yeah.
All right.
So what are you doing yours on today?
Talking about the devil's footsteps.
Yeah, I don't think I've ever heard this one.
This was a really bizarre phenomenon that happened 1855, so this was a while ago.
Oh yeah.
But there's records of it, like from newspapers and stuff. Like, it got a lot of attention. So, February 8th, 1855. So this is winter. We're getting close to like when it would be today, but in Devon, England, hoof-like tracks appeared overnight, traveling for miles. But it didn't occur just in Devon. There was actually some other parts of the world that happened as well. Not like the same night, but like there were other people who kind of were like, "Oh, this has happened." Not to the extent, because this is pretty wild. So that night, the whole area was covered in snow, and a lot of the rivers were frozen as well, actually. So we're going to talk about a letter that was written to the editor of the Exeter and the Plymouth Gazette, which is like a newspaper. So it says, "The return of daylight revealed the ramblings of some most busy and mysterious animal, endowed with the power of ubiquity, as its footprints were seen in all sorts of unaccountable places, on the tops of houses, narrow walls, in gardens and courtyards, just by high walls and palings, as well as in open fields. The creature seems to have frolicked about through Exmouth, Littleham, Limpstone, Woodbury, Topsham, Starcross, and Tegmouth, and other places. There is hardly a garden in Limpstone where his footprints are not observable." This is crazy. So there were like footprints completely covering like the towns.
Wow, that's insane.
And they just all appeared overnight. So it's very bizarre. Its tracks appear more like that of bipedal than quadruped. So that's even more weird. So this thing was walking on two legs with hooves, which is why they got the name of the devil's footsteps, because you think normally like the devil's got like the hoofed claws.
Right, yeah.
The steps are generally 8 inches in advance of each other, though in some cases 12 or 14. So that's like pretty wide stride.
Yeah.
And they alternate like the steps of a man and would be included between two parallel lines 6 inches apart. The impression of the foot closely resembles that of a donkey's shoe and measures from 1.5 inches to, in some cases, 2.5 inches across. That's pretty large.
Yeah, that is very large, actually.
Yeah.
Wow.
Here and there, appearing as if the foot was cleft, but in generality of its steps, the impression of the shoe was continuous and perfect. In the center of the snow remains entire, merely showing the outer crust of the foot, which therefore must have been convex, whatever that means. It seems like a lot of generic terms. The creature seems to have advanced to the doors of several houses and then to have retraced its steps, but no one is able to discern the starting or resting point of this mysterious visitor. Everyone is wondering, but no one is able to explain the mystery. The poor are full of superstition and consider it some short of a visit from old Satan or some of his imps.
Huh. Oh my. Old Satan, I love it. Old Satan.
Yeah, but it's really insane how long these footprints spanned. It was 40 to 100 miles.
Wow, that is insane. That's a big area.
And they just appeared overnight. Over one night.
Wow.
How did something travel that far in that amount of time? And it was winter, so it was very harsh, conditions, too. It's a lot of energy.
How many states did it, or was it just a large area?
I think it was just a large area of, because this is in England.
Oh, England. Okay, well, what about provinces or whatever they have in England?
There was a map I saw on Wikipedia or whatever about it. I'll have to show you, because it was kind of a wild, map. Let me see if I...
Yeah, that's nuts.
There was an illustration that they submitted that we have, that they kind of, drew out the footprints and how that kind of looked. So 2 weeks later, the story made headlines and national news, actually, about the mysterious footprints.
Huh.
It's still very odd, that he was able to, jump over fences, or, whatever the creature was. Mm-hmm. Or whatever it was. A lot of people thought maybe it was a hoax, but, that's a lot of ground to cover.
Yeah, and that quick of a amount of time, yeah. In a night, yeah.
Yeah. So, there was actually another thing that got submitted, a news article, called Footprints in the Snow, and it said, I beg the favor of you to insert in your newspaper the following facts upon the authority of the Polish doctor and medicine living in the neighborhood. Pishawa Gora, or Sandhill, a small hill on the borders of Galicia, but in Russian Poland, every year are to be seen in the same snow the same footprints as those seen in Devonshire, in a single line around the hill at a few inches in regular distance from each other. No mark of a beginning or end being distinguished. It is universally attributed by the inhabitants to supernatural influence. Huh. The same footprints are occasionally visible in the soft sand with which the bare hill is covered. So not just in the... It seems like you can only see them when there's stuff for impressions to be in. Because if it didn't snow, they wouldn't know that this thing was running around or whatever.
Right, exactly, yeah.
And so actually, March 5th, 2009, a similar event was reported to have happened in Devon, England. Jill Wade claimed that hoofprints had appeared in her backyard after a snowfall. The tracks were 5 inches long with a stride between 11 to 17 inches. They started at her window and traveled to the other side of her yard. A biologist came out to observe, and he did remark that the uncanny resemblance to the devil's footprints of 1855, but also dismissed it as anything paranormal. But he did say he didn't know what it was, though. But he doesn't think it's paranormal. That's what I have on the...
Has there ever been any thing like that, similar experience or thing that happened here in America, though? Also
not in America. It seems like it's kind of a other...
Gotcha. Country thing, not here, overseas.
Yeah.
Okay, gotcha.
Because there was also an island that had a very similar...
Really? Huh.
And some people had some really crazy theories, like a kangaroo.
Wait a minute, a kangaroo
in
England?
They
don't
how?
even live in England. They only live in Australia. Hello.
So
that's the damn dumbest thing I heard.
15 years before the tracks in Devon, there was a similar occurrence in a remote island in the southern Indian Ocean. It was a frozen island as well, and they had...
really?
Yes.
Interesting.
And the only animal life that inhabits there were insect seals and seabirds and penguins and some sheep. But I guess, but still, sheep hooves are different than the kind of hooves
they don't look like they're referring to.
Yeah.
So, since it only happens supposedly in ice, is it something with the way maybe the ice melts that it gets that weird look? Although maybe. Then we'd see that here in America.
Snow. They were footprints in the snow.
Oh, okay, gotcha. I thought
that's why they were so bizarre, because it definitely looked like it was footsteps almost, or that they were prancing on the sides of buildings. It's a little odd.
Okay, yeah, okay.
The one
that
people said that.
Yeah, you're
Oh,
right.
and some of them said they appeared to have been scorched into the snow, as if branded by like a hot iron. That was what some people claimed.
Huh, that's interesting.
But there were like a lot of people who witnessed these from like all over.
Huh.
Isn't that kind of weird? I'd never heard of this before.
No, I've never heard of that before either. You would think we would have heard about that one. I haven't heard that one. Yeah.
I wonder if it was the Jersey Devil.
That's what I'm thinking. Maybe he lived there first and then came here.
That, though?
The Jersey Devil? That was like in the late 1800s, 19 maybe.
So that would have been the similar.
Right? Let me.
I'm trying to look it up right now. Oh, it's 1900. So it would have been after.
Right. Okay.
Well, no. In 1735, Mother Leeds was in labor on a stormy night, so it could have been.
Yeah, it could have been.
I think that's when the sightings got popular in like the 1900s.
Right. Yeah.
Oh yeah. But it reminded me a little bit of the Jersey Devil just because it's got the hooves.
Yeah, interesting. Very interesting.
And it's very devil-like.
Yeah. But nobody actually ever saw this creature. They only saw the hoof
there was no sightings. Just the footsteps.
Gotcha.
Like, it happened, like, people were inside and then they came out the next day and a lot of people found these weird footprints everywhere.
Huh. And they've been debunked.
Like, there was no direct path. It was, like, he was very chaotic. At least in the towns. In some of the fields, though, it was kind of like a straight shot. Huh. But then it was, like, messing around in the towns, hopping around.
Gotcha. Yeah. Trying to get him off his trail, yeah.
Yeah.
Causing mischief.
And the thing was, like, jumping over fences, so, like, that's a lot of effort to be put in for, like, a joke.
It is. Yeah.
You know what I mean?
Yeah, I feel like most people wouldn't go that far for a joke. You know what I mean? As they would have stopped way before that.
Yeah. Especially for, like hundreds of miles? That's
that's what I'm saying. Yeah. It's almost like then maybe they had a couple different people doing it, but even then, back then, to get people together, like you don't have the internet like you have today, and you can say, okay, let's meet at this. Yeah, it would have been by word of mouth and by horseback to get to the next town or whatever.
See, but it didn't look, at least because I thought maybe like a horse or something, but if they said that it was bipedal.
Oh
like the way that the gait
standing up on
footsteps.
Yeah.
Like it looked like a person or something on its two legs.
Yeah.
So it reminded me too of the Jersey Devil because he's on two legs.
Because he stands on two legs. Yep, I've never heard of that before.
Neither had I, and I found this in a rabbit hole.
Yeah. Huh.
Anything else crazy?
No, I think that's it for today. That's all I can think of.
It's been an episode.
I know it's been a crazy week.
Yeah, we've been having
crazy couple weeks. So
crazy times.
Yeah, so it's okay if we do a short one. It's all right. The world will understand.
All right. Well, if you enjoyed our podcast today, follow us on Instagram at Two Scaredy Cats Podcast, and please be sure to leave a review on Apple Podcasts and Spotify. It really helps the show get discovered. Tune in 2 weeks for a new episode, and to all our scaredy cats and kittens out there, remember, curiosity didn't kill these two scaredy cats.